Right, so I just want to talk about some more advanced bootstrap techniques, but really what I want to talk about is adding meaning to your content through design. And the main thing I want to try to get you to focus on in this video is what is the relationship between different elements on the page. So let's start with something really simple, okay? He waited a long time, but the check never came. Okay, so this is content, it's text content, it has meaning, it has a lot of meaning, right? So as I'm designing, as I'm trying to really use all the web design tools that are available to me to bring out all the meaning of this content, I can start asking about how do I design this, how do I lay this out so that it is the most effective. So one really simple way might be just to start playing with the appearance of these two lines of text. So if I add a class here, and I'm just using some Bootstrap classes, let's say class display 4. So now I've added meaning, right? He waited a long time, but the check never came. And we can even flip this, right? So how does the meaning change if I do this, right? He waited a long time, but the check never came. So really simple ways of just thinking about how does this relate to this. And I'm going to pause it and we're going to talk about spacing. Okay, so one thing that I can think about if I'm thinking about the relationship between this and this is also spacing, right? So I can increase the space here, the distance. Are these things really tightly coupled, right? Do they have a lot to do with each other? Or do I want a pause there? Or do I want some space there, right? So this is just using Bootstrap's default padding classes, but I could also really space them out, which I'm going to show you in a second. All right, so what I've done here is really separate these out. So he waited a long time, but the check never came, right? And what I'm doing here is I'm using two different rows for my content. They each have justify content center and align item center. So this is going to be centered within this row. And I've added this class here called full. And in my styles.css file, so this isn't a Bootstrap thing, this is a custom thing, what I've done is give that row a height of 100 VH. And this is a unit that we haven't talked about before, but 1 VH is 1% of the viewport height, so whatever this height of the window is. So giving something a height of 100 VH means that that row is going to take up the entire viewport. So this can be a really useful design technique for isolating elements and kind of making it seem like, okay, here's this thing that is taking up your entire screen. And this is also often a way that we'll see this technique used with background colors. So let me show you that. Okay, so I've still got my 100 VH here, but I've added a class so that now we really see a distinction between these rows. And on my second row, but the check never came. So we're thinking a lot about relationships here, right? What is the relationship between this text and this text? How do they relate as far as size goes? What's bigger than this? But also things like how does this relate to the background color, right? This is a very low contrast, right? So this might seem quieter. It might seem calmer, and it's definitely going to seem different than if I had made this like a yellow-black background with big black text. Okay, so still thinking about ways of adding meaning to your content using these really simple design techniques. And next we're going to look at what this would mean for images when we're laying out images. Okay, so I've got a really basic 2-image layout here, right? These are just in call MD6s in the same row. And so, but now I can think about what's the relationship between these two images, right? And one thing that I might want to do is kind of emphasize the difference between them, right? Or add more space. When I say more space, I mean like more mental space. I want to really differentiate them more. So let's do that really quick. Okay, so if I use the same technique I was using before, where my rows have height 100 VH, now I can really create these screens where I just focus on this one image and then I scroll down and now I'm just focusing on this image, right? So it creates more separation. It's more like this thing and then totally different this thing, rather than, when you put them right next to each other, they're in conversation with each other. You're going to compare them, you're going to think about them together. And again, the way that I'm doing this is I have a class .full that I put on my rows that gives them a height 100 VH. And then I've created this other class called subtle that for some rows is going to give them this background color and color. So everything in that row will have that background color and low contrast color here. So just, there's a lot of different ways that you can do this, right? We might also think about what does it mean if we make one of these really small. So let's make this second one small. So I've got big, and then I've got this small image here, right? And what does it do when there's more space around this image? How does it change the reader's experience of what's going on? So these are really, really simple ways of using Bootstrap or any other CSS system, plain CSS, if you're using that, to add a lot of meaning to your content in ways that, as you're doing storytelling, will really take your projects up to kind of the next level, give them that added quality that we're looking for.